What's going on YouTube? Cloverbells here, back with another Series 13 team building video, and today we're going to be looking at Ho-Oh. First of all, we're back. Took a couple days off, just had to recharge a little bit and get ready for the upcoming school year, which has already started. But now that we've gotten the first few hectic days out of the way, now we're back and we're looking at Ho-Oh today. And Ho-Oh, again, is one of those restricteds that I wanted to spotlight for quite a while now, just like Yveltal, right? I stand by my statement. I think Yveltal is the best mod in their Series 13 format, and Ho-Oh, kind of like Zekrom, has an interesting niche in the meta, right? And we talked about Zekrom in the other team building video that was most recent on the channel, but now I want to take a look at Ho-Oh. See, again, Ho-Oh is just like Zekrom. It's one of those Pokemon that in terms of restricteds, that it's not going to be your best restricted. It's not going to be, your second best restricted either, but it can be your third or even your fourth best, right? And it has a niche in the meta based on what we see that's, running around, right? And the main thing that it can do well is, of course, that Zacian's around, right? So Ho-Oh has that niche right away. Now in Series 13, there's a bunch of other big steel types that are running around. Mainly this one, Magearna. Oh, that was Mega Aerodactyl. So Magearna, just like the same typing as Zacian, Steel Fairy, but again, very susceptible to Ho-Oh and doesn't want to be able to take that fire damage. Doesn't want to get burned. Zacian definitely doesn't want to get burned. And it kind of walls both of those stabs relatively well, and even the fighting stab, right? Because if you think of Zacian's most popular tool set, right? Behemoth Blade, Play Rough, and then Sacred Sword, right? Ho-Oh just says, yeah, that doesn't matter, right? And then for Magearna, more or less the same idea. You have like something like Flash Cannon and then the Flare Cannon, but like Ho-Oh again also doesn't really care about that either, right? So it does really well against both of these. And then when you consider something like Melmetal, right, and another Pokemon like Zacian that doesn't want to take fire damage and doesn't want to get burned because they're physical attackers, that would just ruin their attacking stat, right? So not much damage there. I mean, the only thing that Melmetal can do is, if it's running Thunder Punch, which some of them are, it's an Assault Vest variant with the answer to Kyogre, but like even then, like how much is Thunder Punch really doing to Ho-Oh? It might do a bit, but like not enough where like, okay, can you take another Sacred Fire and then can you do it through burn, I would say, right? And then if you can do well against these three, you have a niche against the meta, right? And then to a degree, you also have some other stuff like Genesect running around. And then some are starting to use Solgaleo a little bit more now. But even then, right? This is the main niche that it has, right? So, but not only that, Ho-Oh can now give you Max Airstream because it gets that flying stab move. And I just think something on a Sun team just makes a lot of sense, right? Just to be able to take care of Kyogre, which is the worst matchup that it has. So something like this with Groudon, I think just makes sense, right? Because you get a stronger fire move against everything else, right? And then, Ho-Oh doesn't really like Kyogre all that much, but then neither does Groudon. But you at the very least you can change the weather and make Kyogre do a little bit less damage. But that doesn't mean your Kyogre answer is solved. You still need a good solid answer to that, right? So that being said, I think Venusaur just makes a little bit more sense here, right? Like we don't really need Gashodon anymore because as long as we have a more aggressive grass type like Venusaur, Gashodon just doesn't really matter a whole lot. And at least with Venusaur, you have a faster Pokemon here that can give you good G-Max Vine Lash damage, has a fire move with Weather Ball in the Sun, so you're still good into the steel types anyway, and then you just put pressure on Kyogre in general, right? So I think Venusaur just makes a lot of sense on a team like this. And then Ho-Oh, Groudon, they always appreciate screens, right? So of course it makes sense to just throw in Grimmsnarl here. And this is the core of the team, right? Because now, remember, Grimmsnarl does really well against the two main options, like Palkia and Yveltal, right? That fairy stab is just very, very detrimental to them, and they on lead they just don't do a whole lot. And Grimmsnarl makes things very, very complicated. And now what you can also do is you add screens to Groudon and Ho-Oh, which very much appreciate them, and Ho-Oh can just pivot in and out of trouble thanks to Regenerator and just regain HP over time, and you can win the long battle because of that, right? So I think it just makes a lot of sense here. that being said, how do you round out the rest of the team? So with this as the core, I think you just need another option, something like Zacian, right? Because Zacian Groudon is another, just like Bring Your Son in a way. Like Zacian Groudon was the cover duo there, and just having the strongest restricted on your team just makes so much sense. And now with this Sun arc, that you can still run Solar Bay, right? Now we can run another option besides this. And I'll talk about that when we actually build the whole team. But I think, just having this option, right? Because sometimes you can't bring Ho in those Kyogre games, right? Especially with like those hyper-aggressive teams with Whimsicott. So sometimes Venusaur is just not enough. So you want something else to destroy Kyogre with. And Solar Blade just does that, right? And it just makes a lot of sense. And now you also have something that's super effective against Groudon too. Which is also really, really nice. So I think Solar Blade just makes a lot of sense in Series 13, in my humble opinion. Now, for this last slot here, I think you have a lot of options. I think you can always run something like Calyrex Shadow Rider. Just have something that's super aggressive. Take advantage of the Vine Lash chip damage, have Groudon, Zacian, or Ho deal all the big damage, and then Calyrex just cleans up on the back. You would put a Focus Sash here and then just maybe make Venusaur a little bit more aggressive. I think there's just a lot of ways that you can play this. Ultimately, also what you can do just to make this team a little bit better, just replace Ho-Oh and then just do like Charizard. And now you have a pretty darn good Sun team, I would say. This is technically what you want in terms of like, a Calyrex Shadow Sun team. But again, the goal was to utilize Ho-Oh, right? So many have always said, Ho-Oh's like a worse Charizard, and in cases it is, right? But it does better outside of Max than Zard does. So I feel like in terms of a Max option, you want to max your Venusaur, you want to max your Groudon a little bit more. Ho-Oh can max, of course, but I think it does a little bit better outside of Max, just because of the Sacred Fire pressure that it has, right? And it's really, really good in terms of just having overall bulk. Now you can also run something like Lunala if you don't like Calyrex Shadow Rider. I think just having a Trick Room option with a relatively mid-tier to slow team, I would say, Max Phantasm defense drops, Ho-Oh, Groudon, and Zacian can capitalize off that, even Grimmsnarl to a degree, right? So then Venusaur would be your only special attacker along with Lunala, right? So this also makes a lot of sense in terms of, trying to run Ho on this kind of team. Okay, you can even just say, I'm not going to run restricted, I'm just going to run another support option. And I think Dragapult can do that. Remember when Series 12 was running around and there was that Ho-Oh team with weakness policy? And then Dragapult had Surf. So this is another way that you can use it, and this is actually the way we are going to use this team, right? So I gave you a couple options, right? Either you want Lunala, you want Calyrex, or you can run it like this with Dragapult, but then you would have to run Weakness Policy on the Ho-Oh, right? Because then this is how you fully utilize Ho-Oh's damage output in Series 13, right? You give it that Weakness Policy, and then Dragapult has Surf and a bunch of other nice support moves, right? And Dragapult can also Dynamax and give you that Phantasm defense drop, and then Zacian and Ho or Groudon can like capitalize off of that, right? But if you don't want Weakness Policy on Ho, if you rather just put something like a Lumberry, or maybe even like something else like Safety Goggles for that matter, just to stop sleep, but I really just like Lumberry in that case. But then if you do this, then you're more than welcome to just either use like Lunala, for example, or you can just use Calyrex Shadow Rider. I think both are very, very good in terms of trying to use Ho-Oh. But, Weakness Policy Dragapult is just, with Surf, is just kind of cool. And I think it makes a lot of sense. And Dragapult now gives you that Dragon Fairy Steel core, right? With Zacian and Grimmsnarl on the team, right? And then you almost have that Fire, Water, Grass combo. You got a Fire and a Grass that we don't have Water, but that's okay. But yeah, this is it. This is the 6 that we're going to run. And I think it's a lot of fun. I was trying it out a little bit, and the combos work well. It plays like any other Sun team. But here, this is one way to try and make Ho-Oh work in Series 13, right? So let's go ahead and reveal the GIFs. We got Ho-Oh, we got Zacian as the front runners. Then you have Grimmsnarl for the screen support, along with extra speed control. Really good against Palkia and Yveltal stuff. Groudon, of course, that's your main answer to, not really main answer, but one way to deal with one way to deal with Kyogre. and also buff Ho-Oh's damage. Venusaur, one of your main Dynamax options, really puts pressure against Kyogre as well. And then finally Dragapult, just for, you know, another support option that can be offensively threatening, but it also enables the Ho-Oh's damage output with Surf, right? So I think this is the 6. And now what we're going to do is we're going to finish off the team by building the movesets, the items, and then ultimately the EV spreads, right? So let's just take a look at that first. Alright, so with Ho-Oh, again, we're not going to be using Lumberry here because we have Dragapult. We're going to be using Weakness Policy here. And I do think Sacred Fire and Brave Bird are the 2 main options that you want on your Ho-Oh, right? Max Flare and Max Airstream, they just make a lot of sense. And then from here, believe it or not, we're not going to go Recover Protect set. We are going to run Protect, but I still like this move of Earthquake, right? I think this is a lot. I think this is very, very good. The fact that we can run a ground move, I mean, we can do that as a special hole, but like special hole was kind of like so I was looking at it, I was like, a couple of good special ground moves, but Earthquake just makes sense when you Dynamax the hole, right? And this will give you an out against something like Regieleki, right, where the Eleki thinks it has a pin on the Ho-Oh in terms of like the flying type option, but then you always have Groudon, but then you just whip out Earthquake and Eleki is really, really sad, right? So I do like Earthquake on Ho on this kind of team in Series 13. I think it makes a lot of sense. Groudon, we're going to give this thing the Assault Vest. Really, really good for taking those special attacks. Of course, Precipice Blaze is really, really nice. That's your main stab. Fire Punch in the Sun is very good as well. That is Fire Blast. I'm sorry. There's Fire Punch. And then, here we go. We're going to throw in that Clover Tech that we love so much. We're going to go Shadow Claw Groudon here. You know, just being able to, you know, get those defense shops in another way, right? Against the Shadow Rider, Lunala stuff. I think it just makes a lot of sense here, right? And then Zacian can capitalize from the back. Same with Ho or Dragapult for that matter. Rock Slide for that Rock Stat move, I think is really good against flying types. Good against opposing Charizard, which you know, Groudon can very well deal with Jet thanks to the Assault Vest, right? And then from here, Venusaur, I am going to go with an aggressive set. So it's going to be Leaf Storm. It's going to be Earth Power, of course, Max Quake stuff, Weather Ball, and then Sleep Powder, right? Just to give you some outs. And I want to make this a more aggressive Venusaur. I want to go with Life Orb over here. Normally I would go Weakness Policy Venusaur when I have a Grimmsnarl on the team. But because we're running Dragapult, we're putting a Weakness Policy on Ho-Oh, and so we need another item, right? But again, if you like Weakness Policy Venusaur, then just change the team. Put Lumberry on the Ho-Oh, and then replace the Dragapult with Calyrex or Lunala for that matter. And I think it just makes sense from there. Grimmsnarl, very standard set that we're going to be using. Again, a light play set, you know, and then just having that Spirit Break stab move is just so good. And then Light Screen, Reflect, your dual screens. And then something like Thunder Wave or Scary Face, I think makes a lot of sense. I leave it up to you, the viewer, whichever one you prefer. It's like personal preference. No right or wrong answer. But for the sake of the video, we're just going to go with Thunder Wave. That is Thunder. There we go. All right, Thunder Wave. Right, but if you like Scary Face, definitely settle on Scary Face. Zacian. All right, the 2 stab moves. Behemoth Blade, Sacred Sword. You know, just for those annoying Incineroar. Solar Blade, that Grass Tech. And then Protect here. Now, that being said, if you want to just do a little bit better against like Intimidate, Cycling, and you know, Trick Room stuff, you can remove the Solar Blade because you already have the Venusaur and just add like Substitute over here. I think it makes a lot of sense in terms of like utility here. So I'll leave Substitute here, but again, if you like Solar Blade, you know, have some fun with Venusaur. Then from here, Dragapult, Focus Sash over here, right? So this way we have a shot at getting off the combination. Phantom Force. All right, there's your Max Phantasm. Will-O-Wisp, really good support set. We like that a lot on Calyrex, Shadow Rider, and it just makes sense on Dragapult too. So, you know, being able to use that attack neutering supporting move is really nice in VGC, right? And then from here, you have the option of doing a couple things, right? You can run Helping Hand, you know, just for like an extra boost in damage. You know, and then you just make Dragapult more supportive that way. Or you can run something like Dragon Darts, and then just having something that's super effective against something like a Zekrom, something like a Palkia for that matter. And then Max Wormwind is always really good as an option, but I do like the option of Helping Hand, right? So I leave it up to you. I don't think there's like a complete wrong answer. I think it just matters in terms of testing which one would be better, but for the sake of the video, I'm just going to put helping hand over here. This is a more supportive Dragapult set, right? And that's pretty much it, right? So we got the 6 Pokemon, we got their items, we got their movesets. Now we're gonna go ahead and take a look at how these items and these moves dictate our EV spread. So let's take a look at that next. Okay, so for Ho-Oh, again, because we're like trying to play this super bulky, we're just gonna like sacrifice pretty much most of our speed and just focus on being adamant and being like super bulky, right? So we're gonna go adamant here, and all the speed that we need, we just need this much. 120 investment. Now this is just for like that Thundurus calc, but even though there's not really a Thundurus in this format, but at the very least you can outspeed Rinya Groudons, you know, without any Airstreams for that matter, and not have to take a Rock Slide and die. So if you can get off a Sacred Fire first, I think that's important. So at the very least you want to outspeed those Groudons, right? So there's the reasoning for our speed tier there. Then what you want to do with the attacking stat, just go second EV bump. You don't really need to max the attack here, right? Because you already have a weakness policy. So I feel like just going, you know, 156 investment just so that you hit the bump where your stat goes up by 2 points. You see how I go from 185 to 187. This is the second EV bump boost. And again, if you want to know what EV bumps are, you can comment in the video below or watch our video on the channel where we explain what EV bumps are in competitive Pokemon. But that is the reasoning there why we have 156 investment. Then we also want to optimize against Hailstorm or Sandchip. I know we have the sun, but sometimes one way of dealing with weather is to change the weather, right? So we're just going to go up to 207 investment here. That's the idea. And now we have 72 points left that we can divide in our bulk. I like this even number here in special defense, so just way I maximize my max quake boost, and then the rest goes into defense. And how very convenient that this investment lets you live that Rinya Groudon max rockfall, right? So it's adamant 164, I believe, and then just being able to take that rockfall when you're Dynamax is really, really good. And we'll show that damage calc in a second. By the way, this is regenerator, not pressure, so always got to remember to change the abilities before I make these Pokepaste live, right? So that's our Ho spread. Groudon here. So we also want to make Groudon a little bit slower than Ho, so this way the Airstream can go off first, and then Groudon can benefit. And now on the flip side, sometimes you might want to, you know, max Phantasm first, but then normally in that situation, Ho comes in from the back, so this is still okay. But ideally, in terms of Groudon, again, you want to be adamant nature here again, and then, you know, that Rinya Sun attack stat with the 164, that's what we want here as well. And we always want this, you know, special defense even number so we can optimize the Assault Vest boost of 1.5, because if you have an odd number here like this, for example, this is just going to give you a number ending in 0.5, which will round down, right? So you don't want your stats to round down, you want them to be perfectly whole, which is why we focus on the even numbers, right? In terms of our special defense stat, anytime we have an Assault Vest Pokemon. But let's do the speed tier first. You can go 112 here. I think this is a little slow. I think this is better in like Trick Room stuff. So I think just having like 118 is pretty good. This way you outspeed the opposing Rinya Groudons that are like 116, 117s. So I think this makes more sense. Then you can just run a little bit of special defense investment. Max HP is pretty good. And then just 1 point in defense like this. Like I think this is ideal. Now you still have 16 points left. So what you can do here is just throw them into like special defense, and you still get that nice even number in the special defense department. Thanks to the Assault Vest, you get a nice little boost here still. And you're still somewhat of a relatively fast Groudon. Not really that fast. You're actually kind of slow. But, you know, it does what it needs to do in that regard. Okay, Venusaur, Life Orb. Okay, so offensive Venusaur, I do still like Modest, and my thing with Venusaur is I still want to outspeed base 100s after they go for an Airstream, just in case I miss Sleep Powder, right? So let's say Charizard clicks Airstream, 167 for a Charizard times 1.5. If you do the math quickly on your calculator like I just did, again, it's going to come down to 250.5, which rounds down to 250. So for my Venusaur in the sun, I still want it to be faster than 250, so this way I get a second crack at clicking Sleep Powder if I ever have to, right? So that's going to be just about 120. See, 125 gets you out 250, but that would be a speed size, so you can just do 126, but I like to outspeed that and just go to 127. And then second bump here with the Modest Nature, just like how we did with Groudon and Ho-Oh. Second EV bump there in the Modest Nature stat. We're going to make a little bit of bulk on this Venusaur with ending in a 9 because we have the Life Orb item. And anytime you have that Life Orb, you're taking 1/10 of your max HP every time you attack. So this way you want to optimize that so you don't take any unnecessary HP that you don't have to. So that's why you want to end in a 9 because, for example, in here, 169 divided by 10 is 16.9. And unfortunately, there's no such thing as taking 16.9 points of HP damage. It would round down to 16 HP, right? So if I broke the threshold and I went to 170, now I'm taking 17 points of damage per turn, whereas over here, I would just take 16, right? So this is how we optimize our Life Orb stuff. Now, I've done this before, like many times over the last year and a half in terms of our team building videos, but we always get new viewers, right? And I always want to like still advertise like the same way we always build our teams, right? Because they weren't in the channel a year and a half ago, right? We always want to welcome the newcomers, right? And this is how we do it. So from here, we still have 32 points of EVs left. I'm just gonna again focus on getting that nice even number in the special defense stat for that max quake boost, or maybe something from Ho-Oh or Groudon that wants to click that move, and the rest just goes into defense, right? That's just leftover bulk. Grimmsnarl, the guy that makes all the magic work. Now, normally we would have a Grimmsnarl spread that is optimized to take Behemoth Blade after an Intimidate drop. One problem, there's no Intimidate on the team, so we're going to have to change our spread just a little bit. And again, we're still going to go Careful Nature. I still think having good special defense bulk is really important in this kind of format. You know, Kyogre, Regieleki, Calyrex, you know, just Magearna, for that matter, Palkia. You know, it just makes a lot of sense. So this would be the first bump at 121 investment. Well, 116 to get you that 121 set. Let's take it to the third bump. Now let's add another 80 EVs. Let's go to 196. And then from here, just 1 point in the speed, 1 point in the defense bulk. Not defense bulk, 1 point in the attacking stat. And then the rest, you can pretty much almost just max out this HP and then just put the rest into defense mark like this, right? And I think this is fine for what we want our Grimmsnarl to do. Zacian, same Zacian spread that we've ran since Series 11. I have no problems with it. I never had an issue. And that's just to outspeed a Regieleki after a +1 Airstream boost, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So again, something like this. And again, I go to 164 instead of 156. So this way I can optimize the boost I get from the Rusted Sword, right? So this way it doesn't round down to 0.5. But after that, you know, it's just 1 point in the bulk, and then the rest just goes into the HP stat. You get that nice little 191 mark for the optimization for weather damage, right? And then Dragapult, because it's just 252 focus sash, that's really all we need from our Dragapult here because of the sash. That's for special attack. Let me go into, what is it? No, actually that's correct. That was right. Let's just put in HP here. I think that's totally fine. If you want, you can put in special defense just so that get a little bit better bang for your buck with the quick boost, but I think it's still fine. But this is it. You see how we like, you know, just stuck to basic fundamentals and just quickly made EV spreads. Now, I'm not saying these are like the most super optimized final restricted EV spreads, right? But this is just like, how do I make a spread that just makes sense? So this way I can test it on ladder and then, you know, just make adjustments later, right? Because you know, you don't want to just do 252 for all 6 mons when you're testing, right? I feel like there's still some common stuff you want to at least consider before you jump on the ladder, right? And I felt like we did that here. So, you know, what I do want to do is just at least show you a couple of damage calcs for some of these Pokemon, and then we'll show you a couple of test games that we had on the Showdown ladder, right? So let's take a look at those. Okay, let's take a look at Ho-Oh against Groudon over here. So again, if we use a typical Rainia spread, with Adamant 164 and having that rock move of Stone Edge, if you Dynamax both these Pokemon, let me just click on Dynamax over here. If you Dynamax these, again, Rockfall without any screens will not KO Ho-Oh. It has a chance to live. I know it dies from Sand next turn, but at the very least, you'll proc a weakness policy, and then Ho-Oh could potentially KO the Groudon right back, depending on if you did extra chip damage or not. I still think, you know, just getting off that one big attack just makes a whole big of a difference. Then if you have Reflect Up, by the way, this Rockfall is nowhere killing you, so, you know, If you have to Airstream first, you can do that. But Ho-Oh is staying, right? It can take this Rock Ball. So that being said, what if there was no Max? Can you take the Stone Edge? Unfortunately not. You're going to need the Reflect there. And even then, it's still a bit of a roll, 18.8%. Not bad, not great, but still the roll is in your favor outside of Max. Now, if this was Rock Slide, then you're kind of chilling because that's just a spread move. But we'll go ahead and show that here. But Rock Slide, again, just 57%. If no Reflect, you're definitely taking that Rock Slide because we have a good amount of bulk on this Ho-Oh. So that's the physical side. Groudon's the main threat you have to worry about. Now, what about like Regieleki? And let's take a look at something that Aleki can do. So let's go like Life Orb Aleki here, just because, and let's just make it 253 Timid first. So no screens. Let's take a look. So well, let's change it to like Thunderbolt at least, right? That's a stronger move. So Thunderbolt, E-Webs, and I don't know, Volt Switch, for example, something like that. Or even like Thunder, for that matter. Some of them do run Thunder. And let's see how we can match up here. So Thunder, so we do live Thunderbolt, right? And that's the other benefit of having this specific defensive bulk. You live the Groudon Max Rock Ball. You live the Thunderbolt Regieleki with the Life Orb. So I do like that a lot. Now, that being said, Thunder can KO, but, you know, not too many are running Thunder, I would say. But, you know, very rarely will you bring Ho into, like, those Kyogre games. But that being said, this is, again, a Regieleki, right? But if you have Light Screen, you're kind of chilling, right? It's not going to do a whole lot. You're going to proc the Policy. By the way, if he does proc the Policy, even Max Flare can kill you. You don't really have to rely on Max Quake. But... that for that matter, yeah, it's there. Why did it change my moveset here? This is actually kind of weird. Swords Dance, this is like the Abomasnow set. What the heck? That's not what I put. Okay, that's a little weird. We'll worry about that later. But yeah, we can't live the lucky stuff. Kyogre, it's a little bit harder with Kyogre, but let's take a look anyway. Let's do like a custom set Kyogre. Let's do like 252 Modest Kyogre with Mystic Water. So I think with screen support, with can do it, and even like with Sun. But let's take a look first. So without anything. So Water Spout, Origin Pulse, one-hit KOs. Light Screen, is that going to do anything? It can. We'll live the Origin Pulse. Water Spout is still a 56% chance roll. But if we put the Sun out with the Light Screen, that actually does nothing. Water Spout does nothing. Well, okay, it still does a chunk. But like Light Screen and Sun, you're procking the Policy, by the way. And then... Ho-Oh kind of just smashes with Brave Bird after that, and I'm fine with that. So there are games where maybe Ho-Oh can come, especially if it's like Kyogre Zacian. It's just like, you know, it's one of those things where like it comes in one of the best of 3 games, maybe not best of 1 ladder, but I'm just showing you like you got chances, right? And Dynamax, all in all, let's say it was Rain, but you still had Light Screen. You're still taking the Max Geyser, by the way. Like, we have Light Screen, you'll proc the Policy. Oh, kind of goes in on this Kyogre here, assuming it's no bulk. But yeah, like, Max Airstream, that's pretty good damage against Kyogre, I would have to say. So I do like that a lot. So hopefully you understand the bulk of Ho-Oh here and the benefit of having Grimmsnarl on this kind of team, right? So that's really what I wanted to show you there. So how about Groudon against Kyogre, right? So, again, without anything, oh wait, that's in the Sun. Without anything, Groudon kind of just dies. But with Light Screen up, let's say there was Rain, but Light Screen, but no Sun. Again, another role where we will live Origin Pulse, but not Water Spout. But with, what about Sun, but no Light Screen? Then we definitely take it very easily. And then if there was both, then Kyogre just is not going to have a good time. So... there's that. But what about like when both of these are Dynamax, Kyogre and Groudon? So Light Screen but no Sun. We can't take the Geyser. Either Geyser, we will be taking it. So thank God for the Assault Vest. If there was Sun out, also very, very good. Just 20% damage. And, you know, hopefully we can get some Quake boost going. You know, assuming we can live to tell the tale. Excuse me. So, yeah, I mean, a Kyogre. I mean, Kyogre can give some problems to Ho-Oh, Groudon, but then, like, you have Zacian, you have Venusaur, you have Dragapult, you have Grimmsnarl, you have all the support tools to help you deal with that. So, I think is really, really good here. So now that we've taken a look at some of the important calcs with Groudon and Ho-Oh, let's see how we do and show it on a couple of Showdown test games. Now, again, because we haven't really been testing on the Showdown ladder, these are just like a couple of low-ranked games. So I don't know, take what you will from it, but at the very least, I can still show you how the team can function and a couple of combinations that you can consider when using it, right? So let's take a look. Okay, so this is against a Zacian Kyogre team with Solgaleo as well, and something like this is where Ho can do really, really well, right? Look at this. Besides Kyogre, look how well Ho matches up here. There's a Tangrowth. That's probably for like redirection support for Trick Room on a Solgaleo, and then Sleep Powder on the Tangrowth. But like Sacred Fire destroys Zacian, destroys Tangrowth, destroys Solgaleo, burns Mars Shadow. You can even like Brave Bird it. And if you have chances, you can even burn the Landorus, right? So Ho actually does really, really well here. It's just a Kyogre that can give you problems. But again, you have a Venusaur, you have Groudon and Grimmsnarl. So I think that's the 4 that we want to break. Zacian doesn't really need to come into this. I don't think it does a whole lot into this kind of game. And we will leave the Dragapult behind here. I don't think it's necessary on this kind of squad that we want to try and run it with. So there's the Landorus and there's the Tangrowth. So maybe redirection Sword Dance, but I have Venusaur and I have Grimmsnarl. So couple options. First of all, Sleep Powder is not going to work on my Venusaur, so that's really good. However, he can max the Landorus right here, right now, and then just Airstream my Venusaur, and Reflect is not really going to save me, and then he's just going to have too much speed control. So I'm going to have to, play the sleep game, so I'm going to just swap out the Grimmsnarl here, go into Groudon, and hopefully catch the max if I can, and I do catch the max here. So there's the Rage Powder, but that doesn't do anything because we slept the Landorus. So that's a really, really good turn for us. So we just burned a turn of his max. And our Venusaur is still at full health here, right? So he could wake up this turn, but I still think that's fine. Ideally, we just want to go back into Grimmsnarl. I do want to max my Venusaur. I still want to get off the Vine Lash, so even if I do go down to a next turn wake, I can still get off this Vine Lash, which is, I think, very, very important. But fortunately enough for me, Lander stays asleep, and then he tries to sleep the Groudon stop, but he sleeps Grimmsnarl. So that's still a really, really good turn for me. I do want to guard here just in case the Landorus does wake up here and just burn the last turn of Dynamax. I still want to like play it safe, and he could have just woke up and Airstreamed me to death there, right? So I played it safe, and now the Landorus max is no good, not no good, but no more. And Fly, I'm not really scared of Fly. And now I can just remove this Tangrowth eventually, right? Because it's just going to be annoying with Sleep Powder stuff. So there's the Rage Powder. Here is the Max Flare. We just removed the Tangrowth right here, right now. One more turn of Vine Lash. And the Landorus does wake up. Goes for Earthquake, which does quite a bit of damage. But again, there's the Vine Lash. And now finally here comes Kyogre. But again, because he sent out the Kyogre now, I can just change the weather right here, go into Groudon, and remove the Kyogre right here just like that. And see, there's the value of Venusaur, right? And now he's just stuck with the Landorus at half health. That's just going to die eventually to, I mean, that was the last turn of Vine Lash, but it's just Mars Shadow, right? So there's no Zacian, no Solgaleo. I'm very interesting how, in terms of what he brought. I understand the Landorus bring against the Sun team, but like he didn't really support it all that well. So we're kind of just chilling here. He goes for Shadow Sneak, finally takes out the Venusaur. It is a Life Orb Mars Shadow, but Rock Slide, not a whole lot. There's the Culver Tech of Shadow Claw. So now we just go into Grimmsnarl here, and we finally wake up. I just want to play it safe with screens here. Close combat, not going to do anything here. And eventually the Mars Shadow is just going to beat itself over time. And Groudon Rock Slide just cleans things up. So Venusaur did the job early. Really, really good max. Ho-Oh was waiting, but it wasn't needed. But very interesting that he did bring his 2 Steel types. See, because you have Ho-Oh on the team like this, right? You force the opponent to say, maybe I don't bring Zacian, and maybe I just look at other options. Of course, he has to bring Kyogre, but look at our answers to Kyogre. Groudon, Grimmsnarl, Venusaur, Zacian, even Zacian, right? And then Dragapult can resist those attacks, those water attacks. So really, really nice there in terms of team construction. But let's take a look at one more, see if we can actually get Ho-Oh involved, and let's send you off there. Okay, so a Magearna Trick Room team. So this is where something like Grimmsnarl is really, really good, right? Just look at his matchup, right? Palkia doesn't want to deal with Grimmsnarl. Yveltal doesn't want to deal with Grimmsnarl. Magearna can deal with it, but again, Light Screen, you can mitigate that damage. Spirit Break, really good against Sableye. you know, very, very good in terms of what we want to do with our team. Just weaken all these special attackers and just smash in the end game. Right? So I think still Venusaur is the lead here of choice. Like, even if he does lead the Yveltal, we can always just, you know, punish it with Grimmsnarl. Now look at this. To me, you know, the Incineroar has two options. You fake out the Grim or you fake out the Venusaur, right? To me, he should just fake out the Grimmsnarl just to like deny the screens, and then, you know, prevent me from clicking like Spirit Break. And then Palkia, you know, can just deal like big damage with either like Max Wormwind, you know, Max Geyser. Maybe maybe catch the Groudon swap. But like, you know, the play that my opponent made, I didn't really like, and you'll take a look at in a second. So here we go. We go into Groudon here. I feel like this was an easy punish for somebody like Max Geyser, for example. But instead, he decides to fake out the Venusaur instead of the Grimmsnarl. So that's free Vine Lash damage into Palkia. Really, really nice for me. There's the Wormwind. So yes, he does neuter my Groudon's attack, but like, that's fine because Groudon is just meant to deal like big damage here. A little bit of chip damage, I should say, but not like big damage. We just removed the Incin, by the way. And that's really all I needed to do because now Incineroar cannot intimidate Groudon or Ho-Oh, right? Which is very, very important. And we get a special defense boost against Palkia. Again, Wormwind still like neutering Groudon's attack, but like, we're kind of fine. More Precipice Blaze damage. Palkia is almost dead. Vine Lash is taking away. Grimmsnarl comes back, and now Yveltal comes in. Look at this. Look at how good Grimmsnarl looks against his last two mons over here. This is the value of the secondary Clover Bell's mascot, right? So we're just gonna go into Ho, remove those attack drops. Another Wormwind does hit Ho really, really hard, but that's okay. I thought he would potentially Geyser just to change the weather, but Spirit Break into Yveltal, neutered that. I could have gone for the Palkia, but like, you know, I feel like that was actually the better play, right? Because then I can just keep the Yveltal in here. Yeah, I probably should have just taken out the Palkia, but that's okay. So he goes into Aleki here, which is very interesting. But now I go into Groudon to, you know, probably like, you know, again, I wanted to remove that debuff and just, you know, have Groudon in a very, very nice position here. And I don't want to lose Ho just yet, just in case if he brought Magearna. But because he revealed it was Regieleki, I am going to be focusing on that. Volt Switch, Grimmsnarl lives, he goes into Palkia. Unfortunately, I do miss my P-Blades here, which is what I was going for. So unfortunate for me, but we still get another Spirit Break into Yveltal, and now this Yveltal's -2, right? So still okay here. Spatial Rend a lot, but Palkia goes down with it. Foul Play, removing my Groudon, but we get the trade with the Yveltal. So 2 for 1 there, and now it's just Grimmsnarl and Ho versus Aleki, right? And because we have the light screen up, I'm kind of like, okay, I'm safe. and we showed you the damage calcs. Unless this Aleki was Life Orb, which it is not, we can very well take these electric attacks, right? I think Protect was the wrong play here. I thought it would try and just go straight Thunderbolt, but this is still fine. Rising Voltage, a lot of damage, but not enough because we have the screens, we have Bulk, and Aleki just goes down to Earthquake, right? I didn't want to risk the miss with Sacred Fire. I felt like Earthquake was just safer there. So, yeah, I mean, you see the value of Grimmsnarl and Venusaur against teams like this. Just deal all that chip damage, and then whatever you have in the back can just finish things off, right? So sometimes maybe even Calyrex Shadow Rider does the job better, and maybe you don't really need Weakness Policy on Ho-Oh. Maybe you can just play a more supportive restricted. I'll think a little bit more about what I want to do with it when I finalize the final team pace for it. But at the very least, I wanted to try at least a Weakness Policy offensive set. But I may change the squad a little bit later. But let's take a look at the pace. All right, so once again, there's the pace. Again, Weakness Policy, Surf Dragapult, really, really good. We didn't get to show it, of course, in here, right? But there may be games where you can pull it up. I still think a Lumberry set on the whole is actually really, really good. And then maybe a Calyrex Shadow Rider or a Lunala in the place of a Dragapult is just a little bit better, right? So definitely give those ideas a try. I know I'm going to definitely give it a go, but I think Ho belongs on a Sun team on something like this. If you were to try and make it work for Series 13, I think it's got a good niche in terms of what we needed to do. Just like Zekrom, how that's risen, I think Ho-Oh can also do the same. I know Kyogre is a little bit problematic, as is Regieleki, but you got options, right? You got Groudon on your team, right? You got Venusaur, you have Grimmsnarl. All these 3 mons can mitigate all that damage and KO them right back. So Definitely let me know what you think of this squad, or if you got some other ideas. But again, we just want to make like some mons work now that we have this chance in Series 13. But again, if you're interested in building with me, take a look at the link below where we offer coaching on the channel. This is where you get to sit down on a Discord call with me one-on-one, and I get to show you how to make a team from scratch, show you how I do all my EVs, my damage calcs, all the whole 9 fun yards, right? All the fun 9 yards. Okay, that was a little awkward. But if you got a team yourself and you just want me to give feedback on it, fix it up a little bit, that's a tier 2 sub to the channel. That's team fixing. So still in the video description, same link, same area as the tier 3, but that's just a tier 2. And when you do subscribe, again, just message me on Discord or Twitter, and we will get the ball rolling from there. But we'll be back in the next one, guys. Peace out and have a good night.